So guess what? We're talking about AI. Who would have thought? We'll throw out some questions and then we'll make some bold statements and we'll see how these guys react to it. So first, I'll start with the question. So, I mean, everything we're hearing from the tech space, radical efficiency, AI, the first jobs, the first impacts we're seeing is going towards engineering, support, a few others. Curious to see or to hear from what you guys are seeing. Are you seeing the same, or are there other departments where you're seeing a major impact at this point? Gary, I'll start with you.
I think, look, when you think about engineering and things like that, that's the obvious, right? Because what is AI? AI is about enabling people to do better. So the way to enable people to do better is to look at where there's mundane happening. But what we're doing is we're now seeing frontline salespeople who are doing automated call notes. Things where, how to prepare for my day. Hey, I'm meeting a new client today. I need to know more about them. I don't want to do 60 Google searches. Why don't I just do an AI search? So I think what's happening is we saw it first in technology because they were the test bed for anything that's coming into a company. But as they're putting it out into the business, we're seeing that the actual users are actually now picking it up and they're running with it in some cases. And so I think everybody's looking for, how can I get stuff done a little better? How can I eliminate asking a human to it? AI doesn't, yell back at me if I ask a dumb question and things like that. And it makes some of the things a little easier. So I think it's very, very widespread. It depends on what kind of company, but I think it's very, very widespread.
Yeah. Thoughts, guys?
As a technology leader, one of the things I'm always doing, I think these guys are probably always doing as well, is trying to spend our scarcest resources on our most differentiated problems. And that's something that we're finding across engineering, across all the other internal back office functions, including sales, I completely agree with all the things that Gary just said. We're levering our best employees. We're retraining and rerouting some of the other folks who can be doing more valuable things. We're seeing it across the board.
No, thank you guys. Great to be here. There are two things I want to share here. First one is just like any other organization, we are also looking at different ways how we can enable the organization goals. It's primarily around driving growth, driving efficiency, and providing a great experience. At the same time, we also have a challenge as well, like many companies. If you have heard about the Martech's law, where the technology innovation goes rapidly and exponentially, whereas the organization changes very incrementally. So as CIOs, how do we address this widening gap? And this is the number one challenge that I'm going through as well. And we have been through some use cases and examples where we can make it work. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well said. Let's shift you guys to the buying perspective. So you guys are buying software. You guys are giving a final approval. As it pertains to the PS world, what are you guys looking for in terms of efficiency gains? I mean, what's being talked about at your level?
So as a buyer, being a CIO, it's all about OPM. You know what OPM is, right? I spend other people's money at the end of the day. But I have to spend it efficiently and effectively. So the problem is I'll probably go through more of a testing of things and figure out there's value here before I buy it. But then when we look at a PS organization, what we look for from you is teach our users how to make that work. And I think that's key. I have this saying, I say it all along, we talked about it. Most of us, when we put technology out into the field, it comes out like, everybody has a Prius, please don't get mad at me, but it looks more like a Prius. It's an economy car. But most of us don't develop economy cars. We develop Maseratis. Now, how are you going to teach my users how to drive it like a Maserati? You see, then they come back to me and they go, ha, that was great. Hey, I got a lot of business value out of that. Hey, we're no longer talking about software. We're no longer talking about licenses. What we're talking about is business value. That's the bridge there. How does it come from, I can foresee that there's business value, but I can't tell people. And I look for professional services to bring that part into a company so everybody says suddenly Gary's the greatest thing in the world. He brought great things to us, not great software.
Well said, Jim.
Most SaaS software, and I could say that without offending anybody on this stage, I think, it isn't really designed to be shaped like the business that it's trying to power. It's not actually designed to be terribly usable, really. It's designed to demo well and be easy to sell, be easy to package in SKUs. So, one of the values that Palantir brings, that my folks try to bring with our customers, is this product taste. This like knitting the product that we're selling with the problem that's trying to solve, ultimately bringing value to whatever it is, the problem that we're trying to solve in the customer. So we have the expertise with our thing, we don't have the expertise with whatever the thing is we're trying to buy. And the professional services folks who come in to try to integrate, install, and train our folks, to Gary's point, again, I agree with everything that he said, they bring that product taste, that like how to actually fit the thing to the shape of our business and actually solve our problems with it. That's the thing we value tremendously.
Yeah, with regard to PSA software or any SaaS software, there are like a couple of things that we primarily look for, including my leadership team. Number one is why are we even having this situation? What is the current state? What are the pain points? What are the challenges that we have, and what is the resulting impact of not doing anything about it? And based upon that, like what is the key capabilities that we need? And then the third one is, okay, how do we enable those capabilities? And what is the ROI and value? That is the fundamental things that we look for. And then we see like what is the right technology solution fit that meets our current state and also a future state, and also show us the industry trends. We may not be the experts in the PSA, but we love to see vendors provide that thought leadership. Maybe we have to change our internal processes and policies and to make it work. That's the fundamental equation that we look at.
Awesome. And of course, confirming that Rocket Lane's the vendor of choice, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, just kidding. Just kidding. Lot of lessons learned with AI. I think, you know, from my perspective, when AI is first launched, people said, oh, ChatGPT is Gen AI. Obviously, it's evolving to agentic, and it's going well beyond that now at this point. What have you guys seen either at your companies or across your network? You guys across this stage here work with the top 1,000 companies in the world. So you guys have an interesting perspective, but what are the lessons you think that have been learned so far, and you know, what are the big takeaways?
You know, we learn from everything, and I think AI taught us a couple of things. AI taught us that we have to make people curious. We have to make the end users curious about the technology we're rolling out and curious enough to redevelop their own roles. Because that's what this is about, right? We're introducing not a technology, right? We're introducing a solution. The problem is it's very hard for any one of us to sit out there and decide that technology can do part of our job better. I remember when I worked at one of the banks, they asked me what my role was. I said I answer email. Because for 300 mails a day, I spend most of my life, 8 hours a day, answering email, right? That became my job. It wasn't my job description, that was still CIO, but it ended up being, that's what I did for a living. So how do we make, the lessons I think we're learning now is we have to teach people to adapt. Now, the good news is there's a cohort of workers coming in called Gen Zs, which we love. Because in the AI world, they're so used to it. They live it in their day lives. They're so curious. Now the other workers are looking around going, how are they doing that? So I think one of the lessons we learned is, how do we make people curious? But the other side of it is this. As professional services, you gotta help us with storytelling, real life examples. If you work with 10 clients and one client solves something, tell your other 9. Okay? Be that person who's just not showing them how to implement software, but they're telling them how to make the car run great. Because you know what? That makes them curious. That makes them say, wait a second, and you don't have to reveal names. If the other client decided to figure out how to, hey, we got the hiring process down to a couple of days because we use AI, well, I'm going to do that too in my organization. So it's curiosity, but it's giving them that real life things that are going on that I think we see changing right now, AI in the field.
That's a tough act to follow. There's a truth that's emerging. There's several truths, I think, that are emerging. I mean, the companies that are creating durable value with AI in their enterprise are those who are starting with fundamentals of their business. So, you know, when AI, the modern generation of generative AI first came on the scene 18, 24 months ago, there's a lot of like wizard's wands, sort of like demo magicware kind of stuff, where like, you know, you wouldn't have to worry about writing emails anymore, and then you also wouldn't have to worry about reading emails anymore, and so all of these things are just transacting with each other and creating all this nonsense in the world, whatever. The demo is great and it looks really flashy, but ultimately creates little to any actual durable value. And so a lot of CIOs were getting a lot of pressure from their boards of directors and their CEOs to go out and buy the widget because they didn't want to get left behind, left out of the revolution. We just trusted that you build the thing and some value would ultimately accrue. the organizations where value is actually accruing are the ones that are approaching AI as just another tool, albeit an incredibly powerful tool in the arsenal that we already would have been applying to problem solving. So if anything, what we find, and at Palantir, what we found with our customers, it's increased the focus on fundamentals like, for example, if your data is a mess beforehand, you're probably already experiencing a bunch of problems. If you try to slap AI on the top of it, it'll be a disaster. If you have issues proving the value of IT in your enterprise or any other internal function in your enterprise, proving the value of IT in that, of AI in that function is going to be basically impossible, a fool's errand. So the ones where the value is accreting is the ones where they're building it into the processes, where they're augmenting, like I said at first, like where they're augmenting the excellent employees and the excellent processes instead of just papering over problems that already existed. Yeah.
I agree. A couple of points, Jim, completely concur, because AI is having an enforcing function to all our processes and systems. I think that goes back to the Martech's law, where there is a widening gap with this rapid evolution of technology and how much technologies can consume. So in our case, we are all curious learners, and that's the only thing we can do now, learn.
Yeah.
A good example is a month ago, before the spring break, I learned about MCP. After I came back from spring break, there was A2A, right? And we were just getting trained on what MCP does for our organization. And also every week the models are changing. There's no one model that we can stick for a long term. So we have to look at all this headwinds and tailwinds. Tailwinds in the sense that all this innovation happening, and headwinds is within our own organization. So how do we get this? But definitely AI is happening to be a forcing function to do the things right and prove the value right.
Yeah. Well said, Karthik. One thing you mentioned there was around how quickly AI is evolving, and the enablement part of this is almost scary.
Yes.
So something you train somebody on in any role for that matter, today is going to be almost irrelevant 3 to 6 months from now. So in your guys' roles, how do you think about continuing to keep your teams up to speed on the latest and greatest?
That's hard because everybody has a job,
Yeah.
right? And when you go into these different departments, there's the conflict always between how much time do I spend on continuous learning, one of the most important things we can do, right? And how do I spend doing my actual job? And when do I see the benefit of this continuous learning changing my actual job so now I have more time to do continuous learning? It's a cycle. And I think it's something you'll have to teach, but I think it's beholden on the companies to change that. One of the things I see companies doing now is they're moving to micro-learning, which I think is the number one thing we should think about. Don't teach me how to fix the car if I only change the tires. Teach me how to change the tires. I can learn how to fix the car later. And I think that's what you have to do. Teach them what they need to know now, and then continuously teach them, right? We all do cyber training, right? We love cyber training, right? 45 minutes of pain. We get 8 out of 10 correct. We're so happy, and we don't got to do that for another year. Okay? What if they sent you every Friday a 4-minute video with one question, and in 10 weeks your cyber training was done? You willing to give the company 4 minutes every weekend? Yeah. Now there's no chasing people around. So it's really about how do we get that balance of, one, teaching them it's okay to re-engineer their job. Okay? That's good. Teaching them to be curious. Teaching them to be continuous learning. And then teaching them to continuously to apply that. And that's where you really build up that inertia inside a company that says, we want to move forward. We want to figure this out. Suddenly employees on their own time are learning. They're spending the weekends re-engineering their jobs, right? You get to that equilibrium point. Now, I know we talk about in tech companies, this is easy. You know why? We started out believers. But once you get into the business, they're naysayers. You got to prove it to them. They don't want to prove it themselves. And so that's a different way of looking at it. But you got to make people see success so that they'll follow success.
Other thoughts?
One thing that's interesting about, since we're talking about AI largely, and a lot of these really rapid advances have been in AI, it's a type of experiential learning that we find being really, really effective, both internally in our company and in our customers and in the industry that I see. Especially among people, by the way, to Gary's point, who aren't traditionally technologists. Some of the most interesting solutions that we've come up with internally have been folks at the edges of the organization in HR or in legal or in sales who wouldn't call themselves technical usually, but who see the problem and have a ton of taste about what the good solution to that problem looks like. So what we've done internally, and what a lot of other companies that we work closely with have done, is multiply dramatically the number of hack weeks and experiential hands-on learning opportunities that we've done, and then fast track how we get the solutions, or the solutions, maybe the hack together craziness that people come up with in these hack weeks, into production and actually pressure test it against actual needs of the business. That just incentivizes everybody else to jump in the next time and try their hand at it. And generally speaking, they find themselves doing something interesting, right? So it's this like multiplicative effect. What I would love to do is be holding people back from trying to shove things into production that they've learned how to build themselves, rather than trying to push them to incubate and push things outward, and like having to incentivize people to learn. I would rather be pulling them back from trying to push forward on what they've learned so much. And I think AI is really great for that, much more than any of the other recent technology revolutions we've all lived through.
You know, following the same theme, as I said, the key challenge is learning what AI can do. And obviously there's only so many articles and podcasts that we can read and listen to. So what we have been doing at Zora for the past year or so is our startup founders, like startup companies, have them come to my all-hands call or extended leadership team. We usually invite like 3 or 4 companies, like disruptive companies. Okay, how are you guys solving the problem using AI that we have not thought about it? It can be a simple process as a video recording of our sales demos, or all the way like how do we drive enablement better. So that has really worked. That has opened up some curiosity within our team. Maybe we have not thought about it. We are more like, we're not looking at out-of-the-box solutions. So that has really helped. Second one is encouraging people to go out and connect with others, other teams across other companies. For example, my team meets often with Zoom's leadership team and technical teams. We exchange a lot of ideas, and we do that a lot, and that really helps us to share information, what's working, what's not working. Third one is along the same lines as Jim. We also have an open playground, like an AI playground. Go look at any solutions in the market, but don't push it to production yet, because we have confidential data and sensitive data in the systems. So have an open playground with good guardrails and controls, and show the proof of result rather than proof of concept or value. We want to make sure that the proof of result is valid, and then we can always take it to the next level. That is one thing we can do, experimentation and test it out. Because we don't want to have any constraint, because the technology is going so fast. We don't want to be hung up on this review and analysis paralysis kind of, hey, whether the solution works. Just go try it out, right? That's the way that we're doing. Hopefully, we'll see some results. And till date, this year alone, we have signed up like 10 plus AI solutions based upon this approach. And it has worked out very well for us. So,
awesome, well said. At Rocket Lane, we're huge on radical efficiency. You've probably heard that terminology a lot. We'll have agents being released in the next couple quarters. Product team, please stick to that. We do these efficiency assessments. We'll go through and we'll look at a series of 30 different tasks and see where we can take something that takes 5 minutes down to 30 seconds. And we do a lot of these things today within the platform. Obviously, it's going to go much further. So if you think about it from that lens, from each of your companies and what you're seeing across the space, what's that radical efficiency like that you get most excited about across your org or just across the space in general? It could be PS, it could be other departments. Like what gets you most excited about AI and that radical efficiency right now?
So I think what gets me most excited is this. Think about what we do for a living. Everybody in this room, right? You have things that you do in your life that become your job because, hey, if I tell Kenny he's got to go on a road trip, I want him to go visit somewhere, why do I need to approve the travel request? I've already told him to go. So imagine if someone can pick up that mundane, the stuff that at the end of the day drags us down mentally, right? We get home and we're tired, not from doing our job that's exciting, the part that we do, like you help clients, but the mundane part of it, filling out the form. Why can't I interview a client and the form gets filled out for me? Can't someone just listen to this call and pop that call into CRM? Why do I got to do call notes? Right? So at the end of the day, I think what gets us excited is when we start to realize we can give people more value back into doing what we hired them to do. On your job description, did it say fill out useless shit? No. Okay. But has it become part of your job? right? How many people have to fill out useless reports that somebody's never going to read, the client, right? But imagine if we can have AI do that for us. Be that real partner on my shoulder. Help me get rid of the things that aren't part of my job description, that really weigh me down mentally, and leave me to do the exciting part that I want to do, right? I want to help clients, and filling out call reports don't help clients. It helps some tick-the-box manager who wants to see a call report in CRM. So I think that's the thing that gets us excited, is when we can actually start releasing people and get their goodness, what they bring to the table every day. If I can get 80% of that into the actual value of the product and leave the 20% mundane and keep lowering that number every single day, you'd all become superstars because you're able to do what you were hired to do. That's, I think, what keeps us moving forward in AI.
Awesome.
That's, again, hard to follow, and I completely agree with that. We got to start going in a different order.
Yeah, I think we'll get to
Jeez, no pressure. Back to the scarce resources on differentiated tasks. We're seeing this as an old school IT operations guy. I see this a lot in mean time to resolve metric on IT service management, like just old school tech support. You see like how long it takes to solve a request going way, way down. There's a ton of that in the marketplace. Redlining buy-side and sell-side contracts. That's an obvious one. All your paralegals can do something vastly more interesting. On the procurement side, vendor management, or like managing your catalog of potential vendors. It's really, those kind of things, to Gary's point, are kind of, there's all of these things in the seams of an enterprise that represents a giant waste of talent and time and money that all of these theoretically well-hired, well-trained people are spending. I would also point out, I think we under-discuss this in the technology industry, the way that AI can help to retrain and reroute workers from one job to another. So for one example, in our world, in my company, we've been retraining a lot of our IT systems engineers from being platform-specific engineers, like just Salesforce Apex devs or just NetSuite devs, into much more broad spectrum systems engineers so that we can flexibly allocate them between different tasks in global IT. That lets us run with smaller, leaner, faster teams that are generally higher on a technical level. And the way we do that is with AI. Because AI knows how to take somebody who can do a thing in Workday and knows how to do that, can tell you how to do that in Salesforce if you approach it with good engineering thinking, right? And that's ultimately an efficiency play at the end of the day, right? It's a way to do not downsizing per se, but the smarter kind of resource avoidance where you can route your valuable people to the valuable things in your enterprise, to Gary's point.
It's hard to follow. No.
Yeah, we got to go out of order.
Yeah. It's not an easy way to do this, but what we have been focusing on is low hangings and quick wins, because there are fundamental problems in any organization. So what we've been doing is leveraging this design thinking methodology, where we want to be in the shoes of our users, whether it is users or leaders, and just follow their day in the life. As a sales leader, what does a sales leader do? Or even an implementation manager do, or what do they do? So if I have to take two relevant examples, how many of you like your CRM systems that has awesome data? I can't see everybody because the light is flashing at me, but I'm sure there will be only a handful of hands, but I love to see that person. So after the, and likewise, how many of you like to prep for a meeting with a customer? Don't you guys spend a lot of hours and sometimes days to get it? And we have the same challenge at Zora. We have all kinds of SaaS systems you can imagine in the world. We have like 200 plus SaaS apps. We have our awesome CRM system as well. But as a sales leader, let's say if the sales leader, if I'm making an intro to Jim to pitch Zora or anything, or if Zoom, because they're an existing customer, it takes days, 5 to 10 days to learn what we have to go talk to the customer. And it takes a couple of people's time, and then they have to read through it, analyze it. So with agentic model, we found a way. We are doing a POC right now. At a click of a button, hey, I'm going to meet the CIO of Zoom. Can you generate a customer brief that cuts across all your systems, pre-sales, post-sales, all the things? Can you generate a 4-page document? What's going on with Zoom, their industry trends, and any leadership changes, their adoption, usage, everything. So that saves a lot of time. Now we can spend more time in actually inferring and driving insights. In your world, in the PSA world, when we walk through the shoes of how our PSA team works, they go to a meeting, they have a Zoom meeting or a whiteboard meeting, then they write notes and they create a design document, and then they create the specs document, and then they do all those things. Average time is 8 to 10 weeks. So we are testing a POC where we can cut it down by 80% of it. All the way from Zoom, all the way to it. Can I automatically create a design document? Can I automatically create a tech specs? Now with Windsurf and Cursor, can I also make a 70% code ready? So that helps us being efficient internally and also helps our customers when we go implement Zora products, right? So these are some examples. The best way to do this is follow their day of life. Well, what do they do and how we can help them. So,
Well said. All right, I'm going to switch things up a little bit. I'm going to throw out some bold statements to you guys. Let's see how you guys react. All right.
He gets the first one.
Yeah, we'll switch it.
is Palantir stock going up by 10% today, or yeah, is it one of?
I think it's more than that. I would.
More than that. Okay.
So I'll give you guys a couple layups first, and then we'll get into the tougher questions. In the next 5 years, 80% of all PS tasks will be completely automated by AI. Karthik, I'll start with you.
I would say 80%. Yes.
Okay.
We still need some human in the loop, right? So because not everything can be automated, we still need to make that human connection, empathize, sympathize what exactly is doing, because AI cannot replace the human empathy with our own customers and clients. You can automate all the things that I just mentioned, but you still need to understand and connect on them. That's my prediction. So
Yeah.
I completely agree. Work is done by people, ultimately. There's still going to be some people doing some kind of work, right? And having a human there, human creativity and empathy and connectivity, I think is always going to be essential. Plus, AI, even when it invents, AI doesn't do intuitive leaps generally, right? Like the current generation of LLMs, it's basing what it's saying. It's spooky good, but it's based on what already exists. And sometimes the real alpha that's generated in excellent solutions for a customer is generated by those, like the human-to-human connection, sparking a creative thought that no machine ever could have come up with. There will always be real value to be driven by professional services in that kind of a context.
Like Zoom, human-to-human connection is the most important thing that we think about every day, right? But wouldn't it be great that when we're on a call together and you said, Gar, I need that document, and that little Gar AI sitting next to me says, sent. And you say, Gar, I need to meet you next week, and it says, meeting set up. Just happening all in the background, right? It will be, at the end of the day, 80% of that meeting is following up on tasks, right? Think about it. We spend most of the meeting talking about it. Then we save the last 15 minutes to talk about what we already talked about, so we all agree on what has to be done. Wouldn't it be great if the AIs go, everything you talked about today is done before the meeting ended, right? So I think 80% is a fair number, and I do agree with my colleagues here that nothing is going to replace human-to-human connection 100%. But when we start getting cars to talk to cars, think about it. If your car talked to the car in front of it, you wouldn't have to worry about driving, right? When it slowed down, you slow down. So imagine that if we go to that AI session where my AI talks to your AI and takes the mundane out of it, and it leaves us to do the 20% of human part. So I definitely agree with the 80%.
but the question always comes from a CFO: what happens to that 80% gain you have? And that's not an easy answer to say. So
Yes, because you don't want to say fire 80% of the people, right?
Yeah, or you want those 80% to be growing your business that faster, right?
Reinvest in the right area.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I think I agree with all of us. What we're saying is we know AI is getting to that equilibrium point of where it's, do we keep more people? Do we less people? Do we not hire people? And I see that coming. But remember, and I agree with my colleagues, you take 80% of the mundane away and you could put that back into what you do for a living, right? That would be a great company. Tell the CFOs, watch the greatness, don't watch the dollars. And I know I was a CFO.
Does that work for you?
No, I was a CFO, and I wouldn't believe it either. But it is a way to start, right? At the end of the day, right?
So, awesome. The last thing, one of the first things you said there, you talked about this concept of being in a meeting, and it's automatically doing stuff for you as you're in the meeting. Hopefully, Zoom's working on this, but how far away are we from this? Like, are we talking months, years? Where are we to the point where a point solution or a big company like a Zoom or Palantir, somebody is driving this?
I would say we're there. I mean, like the limiting factor isn't actually what the AI can do. It's giving persistent privileged access to that AI to all of your internal corporate data so that it's working with full context.
Yeah.
So if the context window is right, the whole rest of the equation, I don't know what you guys are finding, but the whole rest of the equation is already there. It's past there, actually.
Yeah.
It's really about this very mundane, like what's your security posture and how are you thinking about actually deploying it in your enterprise, which again, is actually more of a PS conversation, a CISO and CTO conversation.
Yeah, one thing is definitely it's already there. What is holding back is our own internal processes, tools, and silos.
Yeah.
The one thing is what you asked about 80% the prediction rate. One more thing I want to add is the more and more we are seeing within my enterprise and other organizations as well as people are using more and more of this GPT interface kind of systems rather than going to transaction systems. I see that more and more of that happening because now for generating a customer brief, you don't have to go to 10 systems and they will start finding that more easy to use. So they'll start using this contextual layer to interact with all your systems and processes. So that's a shift that is already happening. I'll see more and more of that people using the intent versus the transaction.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's already there. I think what's going to happen is we do a lot of research on humans, right? Because that's our business, right? Talking about how humans connect. And by 2030, we're going to see this change. Most of the baby boomers like me, we won't be in business anymore. Hopefully still alive, but not in business, right? And you're going to see most of the leaders out there are moving their leadership down to the Gen Xs and millennials who are smart enough to know that the Gen Zs are going to run the world pretty soon, and we need to get to where they're at. And right now, a lot of this is in our consumer life, we're kind of leapfrogging our business life in the capabilities of AI. And like to my colleagues, it's there. It's just that we still have humans, and rightly so, CISOs and compliance officers who are afraid, right? Because there'll be a data breach somewhere. It'll be an AI-related data breach. Someone's going to ask a question to AI, and it's going to say someone's salary that it's not supposed to, and that's going to happen, okay? Because there's going to be a failure. But I think we already have what's in place. Now we just got to make sure we put the guardrails in place so that we can release this energy out there safely and securely. The worst thing will happen is when people are afraid to use the technology. The first time someone gets fired because of an AI screw up, everybody's going to back up. And so I think we need to move forward so it's there. We just have to make sure that we allow it out there with the right guardrails. I think you would all agree.
Yeah, well said. Yeah.
Yeah, taking risks is fine as long as it has some certain controls.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an educated risk. Yeah. Yeah.
So, Gary, you talked about cars talking to cars. I think that's awesome. Let's avoid traffic accidents. That's great. My bold question to you guys, at what point do we see sellers, AI sellers selling to AI buyers? Do you see that happening?
It's already happening.
Where the full process is an AI seller to an AI buyer. So you're saying it's here.
would
We're not
say,
talking 2 years from now.
At least, how many of you heard the company 11x.ai? Have you guys heard about it? So take a look. It's 11x.ai, where the tagline is hire the digital workers with human resource. And they started selling digital workers, like hire my digital BDR or hire my digital inbound sales rep. So it's already seeing that trend. I'm not sure how good it is. We haven't tried it, but this is something I came to know recently. I think with the rapid technology, right, growth, I see we'll see more and more of this, but I don't think organizations will be ready to consume it and adapt it. So it's already happening. So some of the companies are already launching those things. So
For that to happen, it has to take pure adoption from both sides, where you're actually selling into a company where they have an AI purchaser.
that's right.
You have somebody with oversight. I mean, it sounds like you're a believer in this happening. Jim, Gary, I'll ask you guys as well. What do you see? Are you guys believers as well? And when do you see this being mainstream?
Yeah, I see what Karthik is saying, and I agree there are examples of this out there. I think I'm bad at controlling my facial expression. I'm sitting here frowning this whole time as he's talking. I think I have a couple of thoughts to offer on this. One is if one of my earlier answers, I talked about what I was kind of framing as this farcical thing where like there's all these silly transactions that we are basically tacitly saying have no value because we're having an AI write a bunch of emails that no human cares about reading, and some other AI is going to receive them and package them up and then do something. It's sort of like, well, then why did the email ever exist to begin with? It basically calls into value or it calls into question the value of the transaction. My first of two thoughts on this is that I wonder whether that means that transactional model actually has outlived its usefulness. If we find so little value in the decision making and execution of it that we have just an AI do it. Maybe not every transaction is going to be like that, right? But like maybe some are. Good question. And then following on that, there's this analogy that is kind of making the rounds. You've probably heard it before, but it's like when factories went from being steam powered to being electrically powered, there was this question of like, how do we, well, obviously it's going to help us. How do we actually implement it? And so you find these like, there were factories where like there was one steam engine in the middle of it with this spindle, and there were like these crazy belts doing power transmission to all the different machines. And so all they did was they pulled out the steam engine and they put in the electrical thing, and they're like, look, we're modernized, right? And it's like, well, actually, no, obviously, no modern factories run that way, right? Because like that would be crazy. You should have the electricity in every machine, right? That's obviously the right way to do it. But at the time, nobody could think that way. They were only thinking of what they understood within their horizon. So I would wonder if we're talking about any type of routine transaction or any type of routine interaction at all being like AI to AI, makes you wonder, like, does the thing even need to exist at all? Or shouldn't we actually be thinking about leapfrogging the entire concept and reimagining it?
That's so hard to follow. But I think I agree with you. I think that the problem is I don't really see AI to AI happening next 5 years. I see that there's still one side will be partial human, something like that. I mean, there could be AI assisted. I agree with that. I love the idea about the redlining. Actually, companies are working on that. I send you my contract. Your AI reads your mail, says there's a contract in here. I automatically sent it to our redline agent, who returned it to me 1.7 seconds later, and I actually returned it to Gary. I could see that, but there's still a human in the middle somewhere there, right? So I think we're going to see, for me, probably this more of an AI-assisted model than an AI replacement model. And I do agree that if two AIs can talk about something, was that required? And did it solve anything? Setting up a meeting, my AI talks to your AI, fine, that's the mundane, right? But there's still a human involved because I can always turn the meeting down, right? It's if the two AIs make a meeting and they actually meet, well, let's figure out what they talk about, okay? And would we understand it at the end of the day? So that's why I think somewhere in the middle, it's got to be more, I guess the bad way to say it is more, there's got to be a human in the middle somewhere, right? For at least a little bit time longer. I'm curious enough that I want this, but I'm cautious enough that I know in the next 5 years, we're not going to have the mindset to materially change that, maybe in the next 10.
So one thing is, since we use Zoom AI Companion a lot, so sometimes we joke around in the meetings. All of us cannot attend all the meetings. Can I just send my agent who represents me to those meetings, do all the talk, and give me that in the back?
Yeah, but then you know what? We'll hire the agent. We don't need you.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah.
I can take more time off.
There you go.
Actually, can I ask a question, Kenny, if I'm not doing your job for you? Like, is there anything in the enterprise that's so rules-based, it's just entirely a rules engine, to the extent that there's no value in a human being involved in a repetitive process at all anymore? Like, where are those places, like transactionally, I mean, like in terms of interactions? Are there interactions that are so rules engine based? And I think the classical answer is always like somewhere in the CFO's office or in accounting, but even there, right, there's actually like highly judgment based, I would say.
No, but maybe a proven expense report.
Oh, okay.
Right? That could be rules-based, right? That could be AI reads it, and it pops up 1% of the ones it can't determine. It's got rules. I take you to dinner, I can spend $65. I spend $66, it gets kicked back. So I think we could find some of those rule-based things, but again, that goes back to, that's getting rid of the mundane. If everybody followed the rules, then we wouldn't need someone to check the expense reports, therefore to approve it, right?
Yeah,
so it's how do we change that whole dichotomy of how we work? But I think we could find a couple like that.
Seems like there could be, yeah.
Yeah, by the time there is an agent for CIOs, I'll be retired by then. So, yeah, definitely there is going to be agents for everything. So
There'll be agents for
just see what makes more sense and where it drives more value.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm personally excited about the redlining and those types of things. We come across this all the time. I think that's an area that's going to be disrupted pretty dramatically. We have 5 minutes left. I want to open up to the audience. We'd love to get a couple questions out there. Start back here.
I don't know how many times you all rehearsed, but the chemistry is amazing. It was a really, really good panel. Two-part question, if I can. You all mentioned like doing POCs and having hack sessions. What has to date been your most successful or biggest win internally with AI in your companies? And then the second part to that is, how are you balancing between fast innovation, agility, speed, and governance, control, guardrails, and what have you? Thank you.
Well, go ahead.
I think, well, we're still trying to figure out the guardrails, right? So all companies are still trying to figure out the guardrails, right? I think all companies, we don't know enough about how people work to put guardrails in place, right? We depend on human intuition for that and empathy, right? So that's always going to be a problem. Imagine you're in a meeting and someone just tapped you on the shoulder and say, we're not talking about that in this meeting. That's above the pay grade of everybody. We need humans for that still. So on the guardrail side, I think we're at least still managing that to figure it out. But as far as the wins, meeting summary is like spell check now. Everyone has it, right? But I think that's helped us a lot. I know for me, it's eliminated, I don't have to attend every meeting, right? To tell you the truth, I attend most meetings and I only want the summary at the end anyway. What were the 3 most important things did they talk about, and did they mention my name? 2 things I asked. and if there were things for me to do. So I think those have been, at least in our company, that has been the most successful. So I can be here with you great people while there's a meeting going on and I'll read the summary later. That's, I think, for us, it's been the most advantageous.
Yeah, a year ago, I was a little bit risk-averse